It is Friday Eve, so that means Purple Rain Podcast is back on your screens, and we have so much to talk about. Eddie Jackson, Derrick Henry workout, and he almost was a Raven last year. That and much more on this episode of the Purple Rain Podcast. Yes, welcome back to episode 249 of the Purple Rain Podcast on this lovely Thursday, first and foremost. The weather is not hot out. It is actually comfortable outside. I'm going to just get that out the way. It is not just blazing hot out there, but it is episode 249. So let's just go through some of the players who have worn 49 for the Ravens. Dare I give you a Chris Board, who is back for a second stint as Raven. Maybe a Brandon Copeland for the couple of the games in 2022, or Tyler Ott last year, or maybe a Chad Williams, maybe a Josh Bynes his rookie year. Yes, I'm kind of interested to see who wears that this year with Chris Board back, but thank you for coming through this episode of the Purple Rain Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. Follow this guy right here on Instagram, on Twitter, or X at Sundeath. You follow me on Instagram at simplyas10.prod and on X at simplyas10. And most importantly, our sponsor, Manscaped, because I'll tell you what, all deodorant, it is like that, with all due respect. We aren't blowing smoke up your behinds. Sutton was spitting facts, and if you are a man out there, and with these very hot temperatures, it does wonders. So if you can go in there, get yourself something nice. Get your friend, companion, or just somebody who maybe might need it. Use code PRP, 20% off your whole order and free international shipping. But Sutton, how has your week been since we last talked?
Week's been going great, man. I cannot complain, not one single bit. We are this much closer to getting like Ravens action, right? I think this is our last episode until we have, the vets reporting in training camp, and we get to talk about that, right?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
sir. So
Last
I
one.
mean, look, and there's tons to talk about today. So I mean,
So
all I can say is that we are blessed to be Ravens fans right now, and I'm feeling blessed, and I hope you guys are feeling the same way. Again, make sure you go on manscaped.com, cop some of that ball deodorant if you are a gentleman. That is, it's the bee's knees. Alex is not blowing smoke when he says that. You need to cop some of that because it is a lifesaver. That and the ball toner as well. Both of those things are just incredible products. So go on Manscaped, use our code PRP. You're gonna get 20% off and the free international shipping, like our mod K Dog says down below. Now, listen, before we get into any Ravens topics and talks, so we have to bring up who's here in the live chat, man, because we love y'all. K Dog, of course. Cam the Baptist is in the building, says hashtag replay gang. Yeah, if you're not watching this episode 249 of the Purple Rain podcast live and you happen to be part of the hashtag replay gang, thank you so much for coming out to this episode. Make sure you leave your comments, questions, concerns, whatever you got down below in the comment section. We get to those as well. We do read those, Alex and myself. Yes, we both read those comments. So make sure you leave your comments down below if you're part of the replay gang and you want to be part of the discussion. Okay, let's see what else we got in here. We got Tanja Bowman giving the nod to K-Dog, saying, what's up, PRP and the flock? And listen, man, this one's important. Today is Lisa Ann's birthday. And we've been tracking this for the
wow.
past couple of weeks.
Wow.
So listen, this episode is going to be dedicated to Lisa Ann, a dear Purple Rain pioneer. If you're listening to this right now, Lisa is always here, always supporting. We love Lisa. Happy birthday, Lisa, from the bottom of our
Happy
hearts.
birthday. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank
yes.
you. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, let me see. All right, now listen, Alex. A lot of
Yes.
people would think that there's not a whole lot to talk about, since it's July, and honestly, there really isn't a whole lot to talk about. Want to know why? Because the Ravens aren't playing football right now, but they're about to get back around to doing that. And there was some news that I heard about. You actually had told me, you texted me earlier today, kind of telling me about this. Derrick Lamar Henry Jr. There was something going on with him, a trade veto of some sort or something. I wanted to get your,
Yeah.
what was going on with that? Can you let us know?
Yeah. So last year at the trade deadline, we were a team to watch that was interested in running backs. I know a couple of names popped up with us being linked, and even edge rushers we were linked to, but Derrick Henry. Um, there was an agreement in place between Baltimore general manager Eric DeCosta and Ron Carthon, the GM of the Tennessee Titans. They agreed to trade Mr. Henry for a 4th-round pick to the Baltimore Ravens in late October, I believe, early November. For a 4th-round pick that could become a 3rd-rounder, depending on stats and such. But however, others in the Titans hierarchy did not approve of the swap, and they vetoed the trade. So, Mr. Derrick Henry, number 22, should have been a Raven last year. He wouldn't have wore 22 because Pepe Williams wore 22, but he was supposed to be a Raven. And unfortunately, people in the Titans, higher ups said, no, we don't want to send him to a rival that really, isn't a divisional rival, but a rival nonetheless, who has knocked us out the playoffs a couple of times, and they did it to us. But yeah, so Derrick Henry was supposed to be a Raven last year. We would have had him for the end of the season, and he would have been playing with a healthy Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell was breaking out at this time.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen.
Not to mention, it was a surging Baltimore Ravens team that you would have given Derrick Henry to. Like, this was the time when we were blowing teams out by a lot to a little, and good teams at that, really steamrolling them. So I guess from that aspect, from that angle, it would make sense for them to be like, all right, wait a minute now, pump the brakes. These are in conference, competitors here. We gotta kind of mind our manners and not just kind of send them the best running back, arguably one of the best running backs in the league right now, to one of the best rushing attacks in the league, to pair him up with Lamar Jackson. Nobody else in the league is going to have time to be able to, game plan to stop that on the fly, because I believe if you put Derrick Henry on that, 2023 Baltimore Ravens team, I believe we won the Super Bowl. I'll say that. I truly do believe that, because I don't think that, Todd Monken would be on that sideline in that AFC Championship game, ignoring one of the biggest humans on the field, like literally on the sideline. Derrick Henry is going to stick out, and that's going to remind you, it's going to put something in Todd Monken's brain. Hey, wait a minute, maybe we should run the football. You know what I mean? Like we didn't have that last year, but I do believe that if we did have that in that AFC Championship game, the confidence and the faith in our run game, even when we get punched in the mouth in our first couple of defensive drives, still run the football. Run the football. It's what we do. This team that we're playing against, they're not very good at stopping the run. They're going to try to sell out to stop our run, but we have to. And this is where I agreed with Mark Schlereth, and I know I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but we have to impose our will. We have to impose our will. It's not about trying to dance around what the other team is trying to do. It's about, no, this is what we do. We're going to do it to you no matter what your game plan is. We know what we want to do, but we're going to do it anyways. That's the kind of mindset that I wish we would adapt. But yeah, I mean, just kind of backing out of that, zooming out, right? I understand why the Titans would not want to send a Derrick Henry to a surging Baltimore Ravens team like that.
Yeah, and I'm looking at our schedule last year. This was 2 days after we just beat the Cardinals, 31-24. We were 6-2. Funny enough, that game, Gus Edwards, 19 carries, 80 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think all 3 of them were for a combined 5 yards altogether. But nonetheless, we just came off of a running back having a hat trick of touchdowns in the game, and we're still trying to get another running back that can maybe take us over that hump. Right here, Keaton Mitchell didn't even play this game, I think. It was Gus and Justice Hill, so maybe we don't get the Keaton Mitchell breakout, but that happened the next game against the Seahawks. So maybe that kind of, took our minds off of it. But 100%, I'm right there with you. I think the season ends a little bit different if we have a Derrick Henry. And with our line as well, there weren't as many question marks as we had on the line last year than this year. With that being said, that can change. Who knows? Maybe Andrew Voorhees has an amazing year. Ben Cleveland steps up, and Roger Rosengarten is a tackle where people are like, wow, how did you let him fall to the second round? I hope that is the case. But just thinking about Derrick Henry on a team last year with a rookie Zay Flowers and with an Odell Beckham Jr., with Rashad Bateman, with Mark Andrews, who was healthy at that time. He was fine and dandy when we would have had Derrick Henry, Isaiah Likely, and then with Derrick Henry and Gus Edwards and Keaton Mitchell. It sucks. That sounds like a Madden franchise team. Like there's so many weapons on there, and that just would have been the overkill. And I think the Titans knew that, because if you put us, let's switch the roles. Imagine Jamal Lewis. Will we trade him to the Titans? No. Back then,
hell no.
I think he's probably our best ever running back. So no, we wouldn't have done that. You don't help them out, and it's one thing if it's an NFC team, but it's AFC team. We have a long history with them. I understand why they vetoed it. The game is the game. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, same. Sticking on the topic of one Derrick Henry. So report came out today, right? Some news, if you want to call it that, right? Apparently, Derrick Henry's on a crazy diet and training regimen, right? And when we say crazy, not just meaning like he's eating a lot of food or he's working out a lot, because we know that, right? But apparently, the guy spends almost $250,000 a year, $240,000 a year to be exact, on his body. And immediately when I read that headline, Alex, I kind of thought oh shit, this is the same thing that like LeBron does. LeBron James does the same thing. That's how he's able to play for so long. The longevity of his career is in large part due to his diet and what he puts in his body and, how he trains and things like that. So this was just great news when I heard it, and just kind of digging into it a little bit more. That $250,000 a year on his body, that includes, a personal chef. He's getting massages. He's got a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, whatever. He's got infrared saunas. He also receives IVs with vitamins and nutrients 3 times a week. He's doing a lot. Apparently he's on a certain eating schedule during the season, and then a separate eating schedule after the season. I'm sure that's pretty common amongst most guys. But, the fact that he's doing this much to stay healthy, I think that's huge for the Ravens, because I think that we can legitimately have maybe a 2 to 3 year stint with this guy. You know what I mean? I don't think this is just like a 1 year deal or anything like that, and we try to move him off or whatever. I think we signed him to 2, right? I think we signed him to a 2-year deal, I want to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that we'll try to move off of him after this year. I think that we see a future with Derrick Henry, and this kind of proves that he's being serious about that. But what did you make of all this?
I think we've said this phrase too many times in this podcast, but health is wealth.
Yeah.
You really can't put a number to how important it is to keep your body right. So for him, I get it. I'm not even getting mad. I mean, that's a lot of money. He makes a lot of money, but the longer he's able to stay in tip-top shape, the more money he makes. It's really that simple. So it's an investment to himself, and it looks like it's paid off thus far. He already played out a 4-year, $57 million contract. He got a 2-year, $20 million contract in, I think, 29 or 30, which really unheard of for running backs now. So it goes to show the extra work he puts in, the extra research he does to his body, is paying off. So I love it. And you bringing up about LeBron James, that is true. I mean, it's just crazy what he's doing, but look how far his career is, and who knows if he puts up another 1,000-yard season this year, which I fully expect him to do. We're already going to talk about Derrick Henry for a while, but it would just kind of add on to his legacy if he was doing this far in the NFL that is kind of shying away from running backs past their first contract. So I love it. And one other thing I read in there was he loves running hills. He does 10 sprints on a 100-yard hill. He loves working his arms, doing hammer curls with 80-pound dumbbells, and he loves working his legs, doing Bulgarian split squats with 120-pound dumbbells.
Listen,
I struggle to do a 40-pound.
Just for a sec. Yeah, I'm about to say, go ahead.
I struggle to do a 40-pound hammer curl. I can do 30, 40. I'm struggling. So he's doubling that. I'm probably making it look easy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more so thinking about the Bulgarian split squats.
Yeah.
For anybody who's ever done a Bulgarian split squat before, even just doing it with body weight for the first time trying it, it's like a shock. Because for one, you have to have the balance to be able to do it, right? And not only that, but like you have to have the focus strength in your quads to be able to do it, and sometimes your glutes, depending on where you're lining up at. But if you said he's got 120 pounds dumbbells in each hand, is that what you said?
Yep.
So 240 pounds.
Yep.
That's insane. A 240 pound Bulgarian split squat. No wonder, this guy is like a locomotive once he gets going, because those legs, like, once they get churning, you can't stop that. You cannot stop that, right? There's going to be a whole lot of hip drops. We talked about it on Monday. It's going to be a whole lot of hip dropping. Just saying. So, man, this is great to hear. What else you got though?
I mean, I read the full Athletic article. It's in the New York Times, kind of about Derrick Henry and his story. He actually was drafted the year the Titans signed DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray would pull him off the field sometimes, a rookie Derrick Henry. And after a call with Eddie George told him, like, you're trying to go for the end zone every time. Like, what I need you to do is just give what the defense is giving you. You're strong as hell. You'll push them off you. And then like the final 7 games that year, he put up like 700 yards and like 6 touchdowns. So that call at Eddie George really changed his career. And then he also was like a number 2 to Deion Lewis. Like, I didn't realize how much adversity he's gone through. I just remember him stiffing arming players and then kind of taking over the NFL in 2019. But the fact he's here now, just do what you got to do and just add on to the list of amazing Ravens running backs, because you're going to do that 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go ahead and shift gears here a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about a visit, right, that was made to the Ravens on Wednesday by another safety. The big talks in the past couple of weeks was Justin Simmons, but this week the name has been Eddie Jackson, former Chicago Bear who was released by them after this past season. 30 years old, 2-time Pro Bowler, had his last good year, probably like 2018, 2019-ish. We're not looking for anybody to step up and be safety number one. You know what I mean? We're looking for depth at the safety position. And again, I've been on record saying on this very podcast saying that I do not believe, I am not of the school of thought that we need to be, levying for a safety right now in the market. Like I'm more interested in like a veteran edge. I don't know if I'm an outsider on that, but that's just me. So when I hear this news about Eddie Jackson visiting Baltimore, I'm thinking to myself, damn, the Ravens are really being intentional about getting more safety help. So is there something about Ardarius Washington that we don't know? Are they seeing something? Who knows, right? Because if you ask me, give him a chance. Dr. Ilwan is saying give Bo Braid a chance. I know my guy, Simply AS10, agrees with that, the Maryland kid. But yeah, what did you think about Eddie Jackson visiting the Ravens?
I'm right there with you. We're being really intentional about it. I'm not sure if it happened. I know it came from a third party source. It wasn't any beat writers, but the guy's a good source. So let's just take it with a pinch of salt. Yeah, it makes sense. Former teammate of Roquan Smith. I can see Roquan maybe advocating for him, pushing for him, knowing how he plays and knowing if he would fit in this defense. But I'm right there with you. I mean, we talked about, I think, Connor Williams a couple of weeks ago, the former center and guard. I would love to have him on this team. I just want more offensive line help. And for me, it's O-line and then edge rusher and then whatever you want to add after that. I'm right there with you. You're not in the minimum for that. I definitely would think a veteran edge rusher could help this team a lot, whether it be the experience they bring to our younger guys, but also just situational rushing as well. We've seen that in previous years with the guys we brought in this time. They don't play every down like a Justin Houston. He wasn't playing every down, but when he would come in, he would make it matter. And that's kind of the exact thing I think of. We're in late July, early August. We see us make 2 to 3 signings. So I'm going to keep my eye out on one of those guys. But Eddie Jackson were to happen, I hope it's a 1-year vet minimum, because we don't have the money to be throwing around for a third safety right now.
Yeah, we do not. We do not. Let me see. Tanja Bowman chimes in here, says Ardarius Washington's small build will not allow him to stay healthy. He got hurt the first couple games, both times. Good player, but not available all season. That is very fair. That's very fair,
yeah,
Tanja.
You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
DG says OL Edge and DB, and I'm glad he brought up DB because there was a report linking us with Stephon Gilmore saying they think he'd be the best spot is here with us. I saw that.
I did hear about that. Yes.
I tell you what, I don't hate it. You can never have enough DBs.
That intrigues me more than Eddie Jackson, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, and let's just be honest, Marlon Humphrey hasn't been able to stay healthy the past 2 years. The only guy you can trust right now is Brandon Stevens. I know Nate Wiggins is the first-round pick. We have trust in him, but that's still a rookie. And then we have a bunch of unproven guys after that. Pepe Williams, Jalen Armour Davis. Really haven't seen much from them. Millette played good last year, but I wouldn't hate if we brought in Stephon Gilmore. I really wouldn't. I think it would just be even more cover for that secondary.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the idea of getting bump and run Gilmore. He's still a guy who's got some good football ahead of him, to be honest with you. I'm surprised that no team has picked him up as of yet. I mean, I remember watching highlights even in the past 2 seasons, as recent as the past 2 seasons, where he's made big, impactful plays. So I don't know what it is necessarily. And, again, we're not asking him to come in and be like cornerback 1, okay, guard the other team's best guy. No, it's just for more depth, and to have a guy of that caliber, of that, experience level, to kind of usher in a Nate Wiggins, of course, Marlon Humphrey's there too, but I definitely think that Stephon Gilmore would offer more of a leadership role than a Marlon Humphrey would, just kind of personality wise, to be honest with you, now that I'm thinking about it. But
Yeah.
no, that intrigues me. That intrigues me for sure. Dr. Ilwan says Gilmore can play safety as well.
I mean,
Interesting little tidbit.
I have the free agents still out here pulled up. Safety wise, Quandre Diggs, Micah Hyde, Eddie Jackson, Justin Simmons. Like some of those names right there, like we're in mid-July and they're still on the block. I can't see any of them going for more than the vet min at this point.
Well, that goes to show, Alex, that safeties really are not valued as much as they used to be. To have that many like quality safeties on the market going into late July, it's crazy. That's craziness when you think about it.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is that, teams are playing more like 11 personnel more than ever. Now, like they're spreading out the receivers, they're putting 3-4 receivers on the football field at one time. That requires more corners, less safeties. You got to have guys who are close to the line of scrimmage who can guard these guys man to man. And that's why I think, that's why I guess that's kind of why the DB kind of excites me more than the safety right now, because in the back of my mind, I realize that we're going up against a lot of these teams who are going to run these spread offenses, put a bunch of receivers out on the field at the same time. And we got to have guys who can match up man to man. And sometimes late in the season, that DB room kind of wears thin. So it's good to have that, that depth there. Safety help. It's looking like the safety help will be there going into the season, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? So it's just, we might have some time there. And again, I still contest that we have arguably the best safety duo in the league in Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams. So, again, I like the bump and run Gilmore thing. I'm not really a huge fan of Eddie Jackson coming to the Ravens, at least not right now. But first and foremost, I do think that the Ravens should be addressing like that veteran edge spot that they normally do address, and for some reason this year they're not. So yeah.
And as you bring it up, I can go and kind of just talk about some names that are out there edge wise. Marcus Golden, Carl Lawson, Yannick Ngakoue, Emmanuel Ogbah.
And Lisa, real quick, Eddie Jackson, he was released by the Bears.
Yes, free agent. So we wouldn't be giving up anything. But those guys right there, I mean, Carl Lawson, I think was intriguing. I know a couple of years ago he had a really good year. I think he went to the Jets and it just didn't work out. That sounds about Ravens to me. That sounds about a guy who was good somewhere, got a big contract, didn't pan out, and he comes here and has about 7 to 10 sacks, leaves us next year, but we get a comp pick for him. We've done this how many times, guys?
Yeah.
In the past 2 years, Clowney, Justin Houston, we always do this. That sounds like a real fit for the Ravens, but I'm right there with you. I think if we were to get an edge rusher, a veteran guy, I'd be really excited going into the season with what we have young, and then with the mix of vets like a Kyle Van Noy as well. I would really enjoy that.
Yeah. Okay, let me see what you guys are saying here. Kind of ranking your needs. Jeremiah says I rank the needs of strong safety, edge, then wide receiver, above cornerback. Okay, that's interesting. Very interesting. Man, I really do thank God for Kyle Hamilton, man. Let's just take a moment to just appreciate what we have in Kyle Hamilton.
Baller.
Yeah, because that guy is important. He is so important, man. When you talk about a guy who can cover, but who can also track down a running back, set an edge if he has to. This guy does it all. He does it all. So yeah, but I respect this. I respect this list that you got here, Jeremiah. Let me see. Dr. Ilwan says O-line, edge, then middle linebacker. Okay, so I mean, we're still, jury's still out on who Roquan Smith is going to be running with. I think the job is Trenton Simpson's to lose. Obviously, we will see what other guys have to say about that. Now let's see. All right, let's go ahead and shift gears again here.
Well, real quick about Kyle Hamilton. Real quick.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Ryan Mink put out a tweet today about Kyle Hamilton's snap counts by position. So I understand why fans are advocating for the third safety. Let me just read you out where he played last year, and I'll give you the snap counts. Wide cornerback, 5 snaps. Outside linebacker, 58 snaps. Strong safety, 89 snaps. Inside linebacker, 147 snaps. Free safety, 301 snaps. Slot cornerback, 465 snaps. So he played basically everywhere last year on this defense. So I understand why some people do want that Simmons, that Eddie Jackson to come in, because that's why he was so good. You didn't know where he was going to be. He'll make plays everywhere in the field. So Kyle Hamilton, the generational talent.
Yeah. No, I got you on that. I can agree with that now that you bring that up. I think I still stand where I stand on it. But no, that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's move right along into some talk about Ravens media. Every once in a while they'll put out a Ravens Wired episode, and sometimes they'll do some during the off season, kind of giving us a little check-in and see what's going on at the castle. And they did that late last night, and I watched the whole thing. I know Alex watched a little bit of it, so I want him to give his his takeaways from the little bit he saw too. But I had some notes that I wanted to share with you guys. Number one, Mark Andrews. He's looking really good. He's determined to come back strong. And it really kind of brought up the question to me, which tight end, Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews, is going to finish with more yards and more touchdowns by the end of the season? Granted, they both stay healthy all 17 games. Who do you think is going to finish with more touchdowns and more yards? I guess the answer could be different for each one, but what do you think about that?
I'm going to go Mark with both.
Mark with both?
But
you see, okay.
But Likely would definitely, I think Likely will be closer in touchdowns because I think we'll be using him out of the slot sometimes. So like I could see Andrews with like 5 or 6, and then like Likely with 3 or 4. But I see Andrews with more yards. I think Lamar will force feed him the ball sometimes. That's his guy.
See, and I like what Dr. Ilwan says right here. If used correctly, it should be close. And I agree with that. I agree with that because what we saw from Isaiah Likely last year and how there were certain plays that were just completely drawn up for Likely to, get open for Lamar to toss him a touchdown. We saw one in the Texans game, right? And then there were plays where it was not drawn up like that. And Lamar just kind of had to throw up a prayer, aka the Jaguars game, and he just goes up and gets it. So I think that not only do the coaches trust Isaiah Likely a lot more than they did before the beginning of last season, but I think Lamar Jackson trusts Isaiah Likely a lot more. And I think we'll see that translated on the football field this year. He's going to get a lot of targets. And again, we're losing Odell Beckham Jr., right? So you talk about it all the time. Somebody's got to make up for those targets. I'm hoping that, Rashad Bateman eats into it a little bit, but I think that Isaiah Likely, they're going to be intentional about getting him more involved. So maybe not the touchdowns. Maybe I think, and it's interesting. I could give a hot take right now and argue that Isaiah Likely will finish with more touchdowns and more yards than Mark Andrews by the end of the season. I can. Just because, like you said, touchdown-wise, right? In the red zone, teams are going to be keying in on Mark Andrews. If they're both on the field at the same time, right, they're going to be keying in on a Mark Andrews because they know what he can do in the red zone. That's going to leave Isaiah Likely one-on-one. We know how much Lamar Jackson trusts him. We know how much the coaches trust him. I can see a lot of touchdowns getting lobbed to Isaiah Likely. And oh, by the way, on the yard side of things, right, who's better at yards after the catch, would you say? Or who's trending to be better? Isaiah Likely. You know what I mean? So
even
I
right
think
now,
that better. Okay, yeah, and I agree. I think that he can break away from a lot of tackles. I think that he's got sneaky speed on him. And again, like you said, in the red zone, I think that he sneakily might get in there and catch a couple. So yeah, I'm gonna make that hot take. I am. I just am.
Okay.
Not to say that we start to phase out Mandrews, but I really like Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, I think Likely has the better big play potential as well. I trust Andrews to get me that first down on 3rd and 10, I'll say. But I'm going to pull up I'm going to give you two guys right now. I'm not going to say their names. It's worked. 90 catches for 1,300 yards, 17 touchdowns. 79 catches for 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. One of these guys is one of the best tight ends of all time. Another one is a convict. May he rest in peace. Not really. That's Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. It works. You can have 2 tight ends and you can be very successful. I'm not comparing us to them, but it can work. I think Mark Andrews is a top 2 tight end. I think the only one better than him is Travis Kelce. I think Isaiah Likely is a top 6, top 7 tight end, maybe top 5. But for the sake of me not being a homer and purple Kool-Aid, I'm going to say top 7. We can definitely use them together, Todd Monken, and we can managers can be 1,000. I could see Likely with 600-700, depending how much we throw and depending how much it is with Derrick Henry. But I'm looking at these Patriots in 2011. Their receivers were Deion Branch and Wes Welker. Welker had 1,500 yards receiving. Branch had 700. Do I see a 1,500-yard receiver on this team? Absolutely not. I do see a 1,000-yard receiver in Zay Flowers and a possible 750 to 800 in Bateman. There's going to be yards to go around and targets to go around. These guys can definitely get up there and be the best 1-2 tight end duo in the league.
Yeah, and Jeremiah brings up a point here, says Derrick Henry is going to make both of them measurably better by drawing the eyes of their single coverage. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of one-on-ones, and it's going to be a field day for our tight ends this year. They are going to absolutely feast in that intermediate middle area of the field. We know that's where Lamar Jackson likes to work with Mark Andrews a lot. But I think that, again, man, Isaiah Likely, especially with his skill set, Dr. Ilwan brings it up, Likely has more wiggle. Andrews is faster. That the wiggle is something that we saw literally from his first game with us preseason, right? Like his rookie year for Isaiah Likely, and that hasn't gone away. I mean, we've seen he's able to shake guys and get an extra 7-8 yards. Like that's the type of receiver that we like. He's one of our more underrated pass catchers for sure.
And Max makes a fantastic point. Likely is more of a receiver than a tight end to me, but he is great. Yeah. He has the moves and the hands of a receiver, but the build of a tight end. Like when he's out there in the open field, he looks more of a receiver. And even that, I just think of that catch against the Rams, a touchdown. He caught the ball, made a guy miss. Tight ends really don't do that. Tight ends supposed to maybe absorb the contact and break the tackle. He just made the guy miss. He's made guys miss multiple times. Then he has the stiff arms too. He has that ability.
Yeah,
I think Isaiah Likely right now is kind of one of the guys not being talked about in the NFL, and I'm happy for that reason because he showed out against the Texans in the playoffs last year in our run-in to win the division and get the 1 seed. There really wasn't that big of a drop-off than we thought. So he's everything as advertised, and to me, and then some, Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, agreed. Moving on to my second note that I took here from the Ravens Wired episode. If you haven't watched the Ravens Wired episode, make sure you check it out after this. It was pretty good. Pretty insightful too. Here's another thing I took from it. Todd Monken is in his second year with the Ravens, and he is extremely engaged with his players. If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about, man. He's holding guys accountable. He's not afraid of it. He's looking them in the eyes, telling them what it is and what it ain't. It's lovely to see. You know what I mean? And I think that the players really buy into that. He's disciplining guys. Like, I think they had something where if you mess up a play that they were trying to run or something like that, then or if you jump off sides, they make you run a lap around the field and like that smoldering heat. I think Justice Hill had said something about, it sucks that we have to do that when that happens, but I think it really helps out the team, with discipline, things like that. So, I think that Todd Monken, a lot of people will give him shit for, that performance in the AFC Championship game, me included. But I think going into the second year, man, you have to look at it like this. First season as offensive coordinator, AFC Championship game. I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't. Now, did we poop our pants in the AFC Championship game? Yes. Yes, we did. But that doesn't mean that that trend is going to continue to happen, because I think that as he gets more time with these guys, once he learns, and this is I'm not saying anything super profound here. This is pretty obvious. As he spends more time with these guys and in that playbook, they're going to continue to mesh a little bit better. And I think an offensive coordinator being married to a new system, it takes probably a couple of seasons. And that's why I was never a big fan of the whole carousel, just kind of cycling guys in and out of the offensive coordinator position, because that's not our thing. You know what I mean? Defense, it's like, all right, we can go from Wink Martindale to Mike McDonald to now Zach Warren. The defense is always going to be good, right? It's always going to be solid. But offense, we need kind of like that, somebody who's tenured in there, who's kind of like, been there for years, who knows the system, who learns the system, who grows with the system. So that's what I took from that. Todd Monken being very engaged with his guys. What do you think about that, though?
I think you made a great point of top the rotation of just OCs. And I'm gonna go one step further and even say quarterback coach. I thought T. Martin did a fantastic job last year with Lamar. I thought he showed a lot of faith and trust in him. And that was needed. I think Lamar definitely needs a guy right there who can go to and who can keep it real with him and also be his number one supporter. And then was he still using the walkie talkies as well, like he was last year, or was that just a training camp thing? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I didn't see that. I didn't see
Okay,
that.
okay. I just didn't know. Maybe they were just trying to implement the offense last year using them. But I'm happy that they are keeping guys holding them accountable because we did have some dumb penalties last year. A couple of dumb unnecessary roughnesses, taunting, unsportsmanlike. We all know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But to be a championship team, you have to be mature. You have to you know be professional, keep your cool. And as we saw, it's not who starts the fight, it's who retaliates back, and that was shown off in the AFC Championship game. We really weren't starting stuff, but we fought back, and guess you got flagged. That's how it always goes. And then I like what Dr. Ilwan says here. He's a mastermind at OC. Look at what he did at Georgia year one of the second. And the talent was average. He has a 2-time league MVP and 2 top 10 tight ends. Watch him work. Yeah, I mean, he absolutely ended the game against TCU in the first quarter. So I have a lot of trust in him. Even with the AFC Championship game last year, there's a common denominator between two very talented Ravens teams shit in the bed in these games, and we know what it is, and I'm not going to harp on it. I have a lot of faith in Monken. I think he's the right guy. So I'm happy to hear that he's even, getting better and cracking down on stuff like that.
Absolutely. Kind of going back to just touching on Derrick Henry again. They did a little maybe 5-minute segment piece on Derrick Henry and how he's kind of getting along. Todd Monken's been saying he's doing really well. This guy, I think there was a clip of Derrick Henry. He caught a pass, right? It was on some sort of screen or something like that, and it really got me thinking. I'm just like, you remember when Todd Monken first got hired as offensive coordinator for the Ravens, and he had his first press conference, and we were all listening very intently to see like what was his plan, to kind of succeed Greg Roman. And one of the things that we took from that, or at least that I took from it, was that he said that he wanted to make defenses guard every inch of the field, and I think that we did a good job of doing that last season. And Derrick, like with the addition of a Derrick Henry, if this guy is not only, taking the ball between the tackles or just like handoffs or pitches or whatever, and he's catching passes, and you have to worry about that as well on top of who we just talked about, Isaiah Likely, Andrews, the likes of Zay Flowers going into his second year. And oh yeah, by the way, Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. Man, this offense could be legitimately scary. I mean, it could be a part two of last season where the point differential is just crazy in our favor. You know what I mean? Like we're blowing teams out. And we'll see how that translates to the playoffs. But again, I think that we are definitely on the right track with this guy, Derrick Henry. He might average 5 yards a carry, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, one thing I never realized is, why he wasn't used more receiving at the backfield. I guess his build, maybe not get up to speed. He kind of gains more speed as he's running through people. But I did see one of the clips where, he caught out the backfield, and I'm like, well, there really wasn't a drop there. I mean, the hands look good. He wasn't catching it with his body. Straight hands catch. I mean, I'll tell you this. I mean, the 10+ Derrick Henry receiving yards may be in the parlay a couple of times this year. I'll tell you that because it will be plus money.
It's going to be plus
I think
money.
It'll be a simple dump off. I mean, think about how many times that our running backs get forgotten. Even Gus had a couple of catches last year. He was getting 10 to 15 yards on a catch. I mean, if it's Derrick Henry, maybe forget him when it's a pass play. Like, okay, well, he's not going to run the ball in the backfield, and he just sits there and little check and release, and he's open in the flat. If we can unlock that part of his game, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last thing I took from the Ravens Wired episode, this is going back to coaching. John Harbaugh, right? When he was talking to the team, his words to me came off a little cringy, right? They came off a little stale, his message, right? A little unrelatable. And you could kind of see it in the faces and the body language of the players. Now, I'm not trying to be Mr. Speculation here, at least not too much, but this is my team. I pay close attention to what goes on. Man, it just doesn't feel like this guy is galvanizing the troops like he really should be. And I made a short about this earlier. Like Harbaugh has never really been like a kick ass and take names kind of coach, you know. But maybe he should be, right? He's more of like a. I don't want to say it like this. He's more of like a. Of course, the guy knows football damn well, and I respect the hell out of him, Super Bowl coach. But he's more of like a cheerleader type coach. You know what I mean? Like I'm just saying, Alex. I know that might be a little bit disrespectful, but he's kind of like, we got this, guys. What are we gonna do? We have to live up to our expectation, our potential. And who's got it better than us? Nope. He's that type of guy. He's not like a Mike Tomlin. He's not like a Mike Vrabel. He's not like one of those guys. And it just felt like his message. He was kind of stumbling over his words a little bit, and I just couldn't help but think like we were about to fire this guy in 2017. Like we came this close, dangerously close to getting this guy out of there. And you know, I don't know if the message is getting stale again, and we put a lot of the blame at the feet of John Harbaugh for that AFC Championship game loss as well. It's not just Todd Monken because he's not the head coach at the end of the day. So I don't know. Let me just see what the Rain Gang is saying about this. Am I way out of line by saying this? Dr. Ilwan says he's a great player manager. I do agree with that. Yeah, but what do you think, Alex, about that?
I've seen what you said years and years on, after one of our losses, after our typical Ravens loss. This past year was the Colts, or our loss against the Steelers where we lose to a really bad Steelers team with Kenny Pickett at the quarterback position in week 5. I've seen that, a player manager, and then they bring up, how he won a Super Bowl with Ray and Edward there, and what have we really done since, and how Lamar saved his job. And I think those are all fair points. I can't sit here and argue with that. And there's been times where I kind of wonder, I'm like, you're a special teams coach, and I'm not trying to, call for his job, but why is our special teams kind of slowly getting worse? Why are we letting punt return touchdowns in the playoffs? Why are we getting our extra points blocked? Why are we getting field goals blocked? And just some of the decision making he makes as well. I'm all for analytics, I'll be honest with you, but sometimes, fourth downs, it just feels like it's a Lamar power left, a Lamar power right. And you know which play I'm talking about. It was there with Roman, it's there with Monken. I'm not saying call for the guy's head because he'd be on a team the next day after. But I'm right there with you. I want to see, the passion. And when I was going through making the 59-minute Joe Flacco video, younger Harbaugh had a lot of energy. I mean, I'm talking a lot. I saw him screaming on the sideline. It was a play in week 4 or week 3 against the Patriots, the replacement referees. He was absolutely getting in their ass. And he still does that, but it's more of a part of my language, a bitching now compared to it was him like passionate. He's kind of saying it just to say it. I want to see that fire come back. And I thought you would have had it last year. And, Lamar coming maybe gave him a little bit of juice, but let me see more of that juice, Harbaugh. Put the glasses on and let me get some screaming. Let me get one last hurrah. Get that Lombardi, and honestly, you make a great case for one of the best coaches of all time. Obviously, the best Ravens when you be coach of the year, a 2-time Super Bowl winner, doing it with 2 different quarterbacks, 2 different types of quarterbacks. You'd be the coach of the first ever dual threat quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Give me that.
Yeah.
Give me that, please. I want to see that from Harbs. Obviously, love the guy. I want to see him go out on top. But yeah, you definitely make fantastic points. I know what you're talking about 100%.
Yeah, and Jeremiah says here, Harbaugh is on every top 5 coaches list that exists. Yeah, most of them, he is on those top 5 because he's a good coach. He's a good coach. It's just there are very fair questions that can be raised about some of his blunders, right? For lack of better words, in the past decade or so. So I mean, that's all it is, right? It's just fair criticism, and that goes for anybody. Anybody can catch fair criticism. If it's John Harbaugh, if it's Lamar Jackson, if it's I don't know, anybody. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on from that.
My dream scenario: we win the Super Bowl this year. Harbs goes out on top, and we get Mike McDonald back as a head coach. I would love that personally. That's my dream scenario. But Renzi Roosh says, what's going on, bro? He says he keeps his team afloat. He keeps the players bought in. No doubt Lamar saved his job. And if Harbs was to leave us, he'd be a coach somewhere else instantly. 1,000,000%. I do think he keeps the the guys bought in, and every time you hear about like vets come in and talk about him, like Odell, they love him. He just welcomes them in with open arms, and yeah, I mean for that, I'm right there with you, guys. The players do love him, and I'm glad you brought up the whole rah rah. Who's got better than us? Nobody. I hope Jim can have that one. I'm tired of that saying already. Yeah. Jim, have that. Let's get something else.
I'm tired of that too. I mean, Roosh, what's going on, bro? He does bring up a good point. If Harbs were to leave us, he'd be a coach somewhere else instantly. But I think about it like this. It's like, you ever you be in a relationship with somebody, right? Who, like, when you go out around people, around your friends, they're all good. They're the people's person, right? And everybody, all your friends, like, oh yeah, your partner is so great. Your partner is so great. But it's like, deep down, like they have these toxic tendencies when you guys are alone and things like that. So what's really going on. You know what I mean? And yeah, that they are attractive, right? So if you guys were to break up, somebody would, whatever. You know what I mean? Of course, that happens. That happens. But we know as Ravens fans what goes on behind closed doors here in Baltimore, so that's why we're giving the criticisms that we're giving them. But I'll just go ahead and leave it there. All right.
That's fantastic.
So, thank you. One other thing that you had brought up to me earlier today was, I think it was EMMANUEL ACHO had said something about the Ravens, made some comparisons to the Ravens, to the 2023 Eagles. So go ahead and let me know what he said. What was that all about?
So he basically said what we lost is going to be hard to replicate. He said that, the Eagles did start off 10-1 last year, and then they kind of had an awful fall from grace, much like the 2020 Steelers when they started off 11-0 and kind of clawed in the playoffs. We all knew they weren't the team that that their record said, and they go into the playoffs and go one and done. But here's kind of what I didn't like from it. Brought up Jadeveon Clowney's 9.5 sacks. Fair. Patrick Queen, I think second or led the team in tackles. Fair. Brought up Geno Stone and 7 picks.
This had me laughing, bro.
Me and Rouge had a fantastic conversation about this.
Okay.
When Geno Stone was on this insane run, it was not talked about by anybody. The only time he talked about was by the commentators in the game. Yeah. ESPN, this one, that one, whoever, was not talking about Geno Stone in the slightest. Even when he got signed by the Bengals, nobody acted like it was a big signing. But when we're going to talk about it to diminish and devalue these 2024 Ravens, now it's, now he's a huge loss.
Right.
And yes, I would have loved to kept him. I'm happy he went and got paid for a 7th round pick. But they're acting like it's the end of the world and pigs are flying and Chicken Little is screaming, the sky is falling. My brother in Christ, Marcus Williams was playing with one arm last year, one singular arm. When he was healthy in 2022, he was picking off left, right, and center. He was making one-handed picks against the Dolphins. He was making toe-tap picks against the Steelers. Regression.
Yeah.
If you want to talk regression, maybe talk about receiver-wise, because we did lose an Odell. We're putting a lot of faith in Bateman, putting a lot of faith in the young guys. Then I respect it. But the Ravens defense, no matter who is back there, has always been consistently good. To me, we have the big three. Justin Madubuike, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton. I think our defense will be fine. We aren't relying on a tush push like the Eagles were last year. We could see through all that bullshit. We could see through it. I promise you. Even in 2021, I'm like, these Ravens right now are kind of scaring me 8-3, but we're winning games. But we knew that if our one piece went down, which it did, it fell apart. I don't think we'll be the 1 seed next year, but don't act like we're going to sit here and be like 9-8, 10-7.
Yeah,
it's not going to be as big as a drop off as you think.
Yeah, there's a reason why, the line for the amount of games we win. No, you're good. There's a reason why the line for amount of games that we win this season is, it's like what, 10.5, 11.5, I think, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 11.5. So, we'll be good. And where Acho did have a point is we did lose Jadeveon Clowney, and right now there's a real question of where those sacks are going to get reproduced from.
Yeah.
When it comes to the receiving core, I'm really not as worried about losing Odell Beckham Jr. I've talked about this before. I have full confidence that Lamar Jackson can make really good use of Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman primarily. But again, we talked about Isaiah Likely, who is a wide receiver in a tight end's body. I mean, I call him a pass catcher. I don't even like to call him a tight end. So I think that's a whole nother option right there for Lamar. But I think it is a little bit disingenuous for EMMANUEL ACHO to go up there and say something like that. Just simply because, number one, when has Lamar Jackson shown himself to you to be a loser, especially in the regular season? Like the guy wins still over to is year 7. He's going into year 7, and he's won over 70% of his regular season games. Like who else is really doing that? Those are like those. That's got
Even
to be like
college.
all time, right? Exactly. Those are like all time numbers, records. Like, do you really have us losing these? Do you really have us losing these games? This actually leads us perfectly into our next topic, to be honest with you.
It does. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. But what else do you have?
I mean, listen, I want Lamar to have, a number one receiver. Believe me, I do. Brandon Ayuk isn't that guy. I'm not trading picks and I'm not giving him this big bag because we don't have it. I'll be honest, I would love for us to make a fucking run at Devontae Adams. I saw something where like there's dead money after a certain point, and I'm not sure if we could pull that off, but I want Lamar with that guy. But I've seen Lamar fucking take. I get so passionate about this. I have seen him take Michael Crabtree, John Brown didn't even like playing with him, to a playoff game where he threw for like 12 yards the first half, but at the end of the game we were still in it and we lost because of a fumble. We had a chance to go and tie it. And to me, I think Melvin Gordon fumbled and Marlon Humphrey took it back for a touchdown. I'm dying on the hill. The knee was not down. That was a fumble. I saw him go with Miles Boykin, with Hollywood Brown, who I do love, who had a screw in his foot. He was not the same receiver he was in 2020. 14-2. I can go on and on and on and on and on. I just want my quarterback to have a weapon or two. All right, that's all I'm saying. Regression, who? Give Lamar Jackson, AJ Brown, and Devonta Smith. I'm begging you. I am fucking begging you. And I would love to see what happens. Yeah. But that's how it is. And we're going to be good with what we have. Zay Flowers, to me, I think will get 1,000 yards. Maybe be the first ever Ravens receiver to get a Pro Bowl nod. That might be my hot take because I think he's that good. And if Rashad Bateman can shut the fucking haters up, give me all of that. I hate how it turned into a Lamar weapons thing, but that's kind of the whole thing of this. Like, regression only relies on our quarterbacks. I feel like the 9.5 sacks would be hard to make up. We're still going to have a top 10 defense, maybe top 5. I trust that work. He's a mini Mike McDonald, I think. There'll be some hiccups, just like there was with Mike the first year. But I think we'll be fine. I have a lot of faith in this team, and I know what I want us to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's going to be any major regression. Like you said, maybe not 1 seed, even though I think that is a real possibility, though. That's a real possibility. We have one of the hardest strengths of schedule, but man, if we can beat the Chiefs week 1, that's why some people argue like is week 1 like a must win for the Ravens, because if we do win, that means a lot for seeding come playoff time, because obviously the Chiefs are going to be in the mix, kind of jousting for that number 1 seed as well, and we'd have the tiebreaker over them depending on the record. So that in that regard, I do think that there's a lot of the stakes are high in that week 1 battle, and that'll say a lot about whether or not we get 1 seed. Maybe we get it, maybe we don't. But I don't really see like a noticeable regression, as in like, we missed the playoffs, or we're like a wild card exit in a really bad loss and we just kind of stumbled into the play.
Right.
I don't really see that, So Emmanuel Acho, I respect your take on that, but it's a very very July centric take, to be honest.
Yeah. And we've talked about how DaCosta hit lightning in a bottle with the signings last year. Like, we're not going to get a 9.5 sack guy off the street right now. It's not going to happen. Like, Clowney being out there was crazy, but we know why he was out there. He absolutely hates training camp. He hates going through all of the conditioning work. He hates it. That's why he always signed later in the year. I remember he signed with the Seahawks late in the year, Titans late in the year because of that. It's going to be hard to find that guy out there, but let's hope these guys can step up. But this will move on to our final topic of the day. And I was on Twitter right before I went in the shower, and I saw good friend of the show, Hoodie Ramey, said, "What is your favorite Lamar Jackson game of all time as a Raven?" So I replied back. I said, the Colts game, they'll come back because I was there, or the final week 17 in his rookie year against the Browns, because it kind of set the tone, because year before, Tyler Boyd beat us. Year before that, we had the AB reach out, knocked us out of the playoffs. Like, it kind of changed, like, the Ravens weren't perennial regular season chokers anymore. Say playoffs, say regular season. But then, I went in the shower and I started thinking, I'm like, man, like there's been a lot of good Lamar games that I just enjoy. Seahawks, love that game in 2019.
Yeah.
Niners this past year on Christmas, belt the ass. The
That's up
Texans
there.
game in the playoffs, loved it. How the Jets game week 1, 2022, when Lamar didn't go into these workouts, go to the OTAs on his contract, and he still does his thing with like no practice. But I want to hear from you. Some of your favorite Lamar Jackson games, and from the chat as well. Please drop them.
Yes. If you're in the chat right now, make sure you drop your favorite Lamar Jackson performance. If you're not in the chat right now, you happen to be part of the hashtag replay gang. Hello. Thank you so much for joining this episode 249 of the Purple Rain podcast. Make sure you leave your comment down below in the comments section. Okay, so I did see your tweet in response to Raimi earlier, and it got me to thinking, just like you said you did. And there's a couple of games that come to mind for me. Of course, there's that comeback Colts game that you brought up. There's also, I think it was the 2021 Browns game, the Thursday nighter, where Lamar goes to the locker room, then he comes back out after Trace McSorley gets hurt, and then he throws that touchdown to Hollywood on the first play back in. I love so many of Lamar Jackson's performances for so many different reasons. And, I love that one just for the kind of like the fanfare and the theatrics of it all. Like if you didn't become a fan of Lamar Jackson after seeing that, you're just not a fan of sports. It's not even just that you're not a fan of football. You're not a fan of sports because sports are supposed to be compelling. And that was a compelling ass moment if I've ever seen one in my life. Right. So, and I'm thankful that, that was my quarterback on my team. Real quick, I want to go to a super chat donation. This one's coming from Max. Off it, what's going on, Max? Mystic Max in the building, making it rain here on this episode 249 of PRP. He says, my hot take is the O-line will be better than last year once they gel. Monk is getting dudes that fit the system. Okay. I like that. How do we know that Monk is getting dudes that fit his system? Can you like expand on that a little bit more, Max? Like what do you mean by that exactly? Because I want to say I know exactly what you mean, but how is that shaping up? What does that look like? But no, I mean, I agree. Once they gel, they're going to be good.
Because Roman liked the power guys for the running. Monk wants the athletic guys for a pass and run block, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Max. I think, is that what you're talking about? Because I think they've talked about that before, how he uses linemen as, not your beefy or DJ Fluker, Tyree Phillips guys. Yep, more athletic linemen like Rosengarten, Max says. Yeah, I hope you're right. And I hope even the one guy we signed the tackle this year, former Texan, former Cardinal, if he can even, match that build and be a key part of this line. I hope the line's better. If it is, then this Ravens offense is better with a better line.
Yeah, agreed. But thank you so much, Max, for your super chat donation. We appreciate you. Now, okay, so what I was talking about here with these Lamar moments, right? I love so many of Lamar Jackson's moments for so many different reasons. I love that one against the Browns in 2021 because of the theatrics and everything like that. I love that one against the Colts because that Thursday night game against the Colts because Lamar Jackson proved that he can come from behind. And really walk down that Colts team who had like a 20-something point lead on us, I believe, or maybe it was close to 20, and walked them down with his arm, with his legs, did it all in overtime, drug them into deep waters, and absolutely drowned them. That was an amazing Lamar Jackson performance. But there is one performance, Alex, that really sticks out to me, and it just popped in my head, like just now thinking about it. And I want to know if you agree with me on this. This might be my favorite Lamar Jackson performance of all time. And it's not even like he played lights out, because I don't think he didn't, but he made the plays that he needed to make when he needed to make them. They were on time. And that was his first playoff victory against the Titans in 2020, 2021,
2020,
like that, 2020. Yeah. So with that game, I just think about the one rushing touchdown, right? I think it came in like the second quarter or late first quarter, something like that, where I think we started to play on our own, maybe like 40-yard line. I'm kind of, just remembering off the top of my head here, but it was somewhere near midfield, right? And Lamar Jackson takes it out of the gun and basically just runs up the middle and just runs for a touchdown. Outruns every single person. There were guys who were 30, 40 yards ahead of him, who had the angle on him, who still could not beat him to the sideline. And that sheer will and determination that you saw from Lamar Jackson and that speed on that play and just the determination to get in the end zone. That told me all I need to know about Lamar Jackson. Not to say that like I was on the fence about him, before that, because we all know that Seattle game was first when he kind of took the reins over officially, right? But no, that game against the Titans where he had that touchdown and then kind of icing the game at the very end. You remember with the run, that was a very signature Lamar moments to me. And that's probably one of my best games from him because that was his first playoff victory. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point you bring up, and he was making some beautiful throws to he's wearing that white glove too. I remember, I think his hand got banged up the week before or something, but he was making some beautiful throws to Hollywood over the shoulder. I remember there was one, just making all the right throws he had to. It wasn't the prettiest game stat wise, but it was a stats that you do to win playoff games. It wasn't pretty, but it doesn't matter in the playoffs. You can win 3-0 in the playoffs, but a win is a win. Won the next round, live to fight another day. Kind of how it is, especially with that team, because we were a wild card team that year because the Steelers won the division. Yeah, we were a wild card team, so we got in. But yeah, I mean that's a great game you brought up. I think it's some more of them. That game, the cramp game was insane. Like Lamar wasn't even. I don't think he threw a ball for like an hour and change. He comes back on the field.
Yeah.
First throw to Hollywood on 4th down, touchdown. That was fantastic.
That was insane. There was the Monday Night Football game against the Rams, right? Jackson 5. That's another one. There was the one against the Dolphins at Jackson 5 in week 1. There's a lot of really
this past
really
year,
good Lamar Jackson.
The Dolphins 56 points or however we put up. I mean, I think one for me, the Dolphins game this past year, beating them.
Oh yeah.
I think for me another one that stands out, week 1, 2020. I think one of my favorite years of football was 2020, because I think we needed it, and we won 38-6 against the Browns, and we all felt as Ravens fans felt united again. Like we weren't there, but we had our Ravens back. It was such a promising year, and we kind of started off. We picked up where we left off in 2019, blowing out the Browns. They had all the hype around them still with Jarvis and Odell, and we just absolutely smoked them. J.K. Dobbins 2 touchdowns. I had so much hope.
I was wearing my Lamar Jackson jersey during that game, and I was sitting in a Hooters watching that game. I vividly remember that. That was a good one. So many good moments against Lamar Jackson. Not against us. So many good moments for Lamar Jackson. Let me see. Dr. Ilman says playoff game against the Titans. Even though it was a loss, he showed me something. Yeah, when he had 400 all-purpose yards in that game or something like that. Yeah, that was definitely crazy. He did show you he had heart. He has heart for sure. No lack there at all. Okay. What else? You got anything else for us?
I'm just looking through some of the replies. I'm gonna just kind of throw some out. The Chiefs win, I see. 2021. I really don't like that game. It was fun to watch, but I want to see him beat us in the playoffs. And then this year, the Jets game in 2019. He threw for 5, won the division that game. Freaking half their team was lining up to get his
that was a primetime game
jersey signed. Oh, even this one. I forgot. The Patriots game in 2019, they were undefeated. They come into the bank on Sunday Night Football and get their asses blown out. Fucking Brady's there. They were the hottest team in the league, and we shut it down. And then one more, I think that I remember I like a lot, was against the Niners in 2019. The rain game. We're wearing all black. Just a gritty game against them.
We went off a field goal, a Tucker field goal. I remember that one. Good times. Let me see.
Yeah. Fun times.
Yeah. Listen, again, if you have not, make sure you throw your favorite Lamar Jackson performances down in the comment section below. I think we have one here. See, Tanja Bowman says Steelers game this past season, Lamar would have beat the Steelers if the receivers didn't drop 5 touchdowns. I remember that was a thing last year. Hopefully we can get some good Lamar Jackson performances, some signature Lamar Jackson performances against the Steelers, because we have not seen that yet. No. All the way up into year 7, we have not seen a signature LJ performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's, hats off to the Steelers. They play us tough every time. I think that's a very well coached team with Mike Tomlin at the helm. But we got to get over that hump, man. does get annoying. I'm not gonna lie. All right. So I think we're gonna go ahead and leave it there for this episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Again, thank you guys so much for coming out to this episode. We still got over 60 people watching live. Thank y'all so much. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new and you are enjoying this content, because the season is right around the corner. And listen, training camp starts next week. Training camp starts next week. So I mean, we're gonna get pads, we're getting training camp clips, we're gonna be showing those. There's gonna be a lot, so make sure you stay locked into the Purple Rain podcast YouTube channel, not to mention the shorts that come out throughout the week as well. Shorts about football, shorts about UFC, other things. Make sure you're checking those out too. Listen, you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast, like you see on the screen right there. You can follow me on X or Instagram at Sutton Def if you'd like to. You know, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can. And then this guy over here, you can find him on X at SimplyAS10 or on Instagram at SimplyAS10.prod. And like we led the show with, Manscaped. You can go on Manscaped.com right now. That's right now. No matter where you are, where you live, what you're doing. Manscaped.com. Type in our code PRP at checkout. You're going to get 20% off plus the free international shipping. So literally, for all of our Canada, UK watchers, make sure you're
England donnies
tapping in. Exactly. Make sure you're tapping into the Manscaped. And yeah, man, this has been episode 249 of the show. From the bottom of my heart, thank you again. I want to give another special shout out to Lisa Ann, who is her birthday today. This episode was dedicated to her. So happy birthday, Lisa, a true member of the Purple Rain Pioneers. And with that being said, I'm going to let my guy Alex take us out.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you all for coming through. Very fitting that episode 250 will be kind of the start of the new Ravens year. Training camp starts. So that'll be very fun. Fitting. We'll have hopefully a nice Zay Flowers touchdown clip. Maybe, the Odafe Owe hype will be there. Give me a Devontae Walker big play as well to really get the Ravens fans hyped up for their rookie receiver in training camp. It's a tradition at this point. We need our rookie receiver to make a big play and get absolutely zero playing time as a receiver in the regular season. But thank you all for coming through to episode 249 of the Purple Rain podcast. Like my boy Roosh says here, stay positive, test negative.
Yeah, and most importantly, never, ever, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. This has been episode 249 of the Purple Rain podcast. We're going to catch you guys in the next one.